I'm JC3. I'm here to talk with Michael Daw. He's a graphic designer about the Cornucopia logo, which is this real. We've been catching some flack on TikTok about. Mike, just give us a little background about you and your graphic design background and your YouTube sketch show.
Sure. So I've been a graphic designer for 10 years. I specialize in logo design, branding, and illustration. That's my day job. I'm also pursuing acting, so I have an agent. I go on auditions. Been working on a pilot for a sketch show that we did a YouTube series for a long time, and kind of got some interest by a sketch comedy legend, and he's working with us right now on the pilot.
Oh, awesome! That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Congratulations. So just what got your interest in the cornucopia design? Because sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I've kind of followed the Mandela Effect stuff since it started catching on. I don't remember the exact year the Berenstain Bears one got popular, but that's kind of when I jumped on it. So I find it super interesting. I think there's a lot that it could tell us about our brains and our memory and groupthink and stuff like that. So I've kind of followed it. I remember people posting about the cornucopia initially, and kind of having that memory too of there being a cornucopia. But I think I did the same thing everybody else did. I'm like, surely they rebranded and that logo exists somewhere, and went down the rabbit hole of looking for it and not finding it. And it's like, oh no, I guess it did not exist and I'm wrong, which I think is the way you're supposed to respond to stuff like that.
At least one would.
As we all know, there's a lot of other people who think that they couldn't have possibly been wrong, so it has to be either us switching timelines or corporate gaslighting.
Yeah.
So I used to do parody videos on my account, making fun of like kind of Mandela Effect stuff, and stopped doing those because I just kind of ran out of stuff to do after a while. And then that Nicole girl went viral on TikTok with her whole thing, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should try like debunking some of this stuff from the perspective of like I do design work, so I kind of have like a take on it,
So when in the original video, in which went viral for us, it has right now 333,000 views, almost 1,000 comments, something like that. That's my brother. You'll see him in the episode. That's Tony. He doesn't believe in the Mandela Effect whatsoever. My brother doesn't believe in a lot of things, but he did his work. That video went, and then it just started to. It's like a tumbleweed down a mountain. It started to like just build.
Snowball effect?
Yeah, snowball effect, yeah. And it just started to build, and the more we talked about it, the more I did some research on it. I'm like, this logo never existed. And when my whole thing that I'm looking at, and maybe I can get your opinion since, you're in the field of graphic design for 10 years, that original logo, the Cornucopia logo, I can't find that logo on the internet before 2018, when that first official Tumblr post went up. I believe it was Tumblr.
Yeah, you mean the like post. Artist rendition it was on Reddit version?
Yeah. And from that point on, that's when it blew up. But in your opinion, does that look like something that could be legit by the company? Or does it look like an actual... Because, like I said, I read the post, and it said, this is a artist rendition of what I remember. And that's how I'm taking the post,
Yeah. That's where it came from, and it was an artist rendition. I mean, you can even... let me pull it up on another screen real quick so I can reference it. Here's the Loom. It's funny how that's one of the first things that pops up when you search that now.
Yeah.
But like, I guess what you're probably experiencing is people being like, no, that's the actual what it used to be. Is that what you're getting?
Yeah, like I've had 3 comments today already on the old video, and they turned around and said, on a couple videos actually, and it's all older people turning around and say, "Well, you're too young to remember, but this was the logo." Or
How old are y'all?
We're both 28.
Okay, all right. I'm 37, so I'm old enough that I can say that that's not that's not the logo.
Yeah, and then we
Uh,
went, me, Eric, and Tony, my brother. We all went to a couple thrift stores in the area and looked for Fruit of the Loom tags. And we all know, I think it was 2002, in which they changed from tags to tagless, to like the seam inside the shirt. I think that's when they did the switch.
so Hanes invented the tagless shirt in 2002.
Yeah.
And it wasn't I can't find the year that Fruit of the Loom started doing it, but I don't think it was until at the earliest like 05, 06.
So we found a couple ones with tags on it, which means they're about 20-year-old T-shirts, over 20-year-old T-shirts now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people
Right.
saying on the thing, well, those are brand new T-shirts, those are this and that. And I'm like, you don't understand the timeline of this stuff, and you don't understand research. Like, I really don't go back to the people who say that I'm not old enough, because I have a good memory of things. And I do remember Fruit of the Loom logo not having a cornucopia. Yes, Mr. West?
I'm not gonna lie, I always thought it had a cornucopia, but it could have just most likely been based on just school projects that I remember in elementary school, because I remember in elementary school, we had like a giant poster, and for Thanksgiving, there's always the theme of the cornucopia with a few other fruits, I believe, that are
Yeah.
that are near it. So when I always saw that fruit, the Fruit of the Loom, I just always associated that there should be a cornucopia there. And it wasn't until that we actually like did the research that we couldn't find a freaking cornucopia at all.
Yeah, no.
Some of them were just artists that were drawing on them. And
Yeah, that's one of the pictures we found, is someone, and we zoomed in, and someone actually drew the actual cornucopia logo on the back of a white T-shirt.
Yeah, that's the one that the Nicole girl posted, which
Mhm.
is as old as the internet, as they say. It's from like I think from the same year, around 2018. It was posted on I think 4chan originally, but
Mhm.
I haven't been able to find that post. It definitely was on Reddit, and yeah, there's a close up that where you can tell it's drawn on and pinned. My issue with that is like if she keeps saying she did like a deep dive, and people are like, yeah, she went down the rabbit hole, but she went really shallow if she did, because if you Google this, like Fruit of the Loom cornucopia, that post comes up pretty early. Like you
Mhm.
find that photo. So the fact that she was looking this stuff up and never saw that photo or never clicked on it, or when Claire or whoever sent it to her, she didn't ask where it came from. She didn't do a reverse Google search, because all you have to do is click that, and on the link in the comments are people talking about how it's fake, and you can see that it's drawn on. There's a link to the close up and high. So it's like either she's not looking into this stuff at all, she's doing the tiniest little bit of research and finding something that confirms her bias, and she's just like sharing that with millions of people immediately without checking further into it, or she's seeing the discourse and she realizes that that goes against the narrative that she's trying to spin and won't help her content, so she ignores it.
Well, I actually, when we first started to get tagged in her video, because I can't tell you the amount of people who tagged us in her video, just that initial video of her doing the deep dive, and
Yeah.
that video blew up. It did. Like, good for Nicole. I'm happy for her. We added her, and she added us back, and I actually got in contact with her,
Interesting.
and I wanted to do an interview with her about it. Like, let's take our opposing, you say you did a deep dive and stuff like that, and I would like to talk to you about it. And she goes, well, I really don't do that stuff. I'm just having fun, stuff like that. So I'm like, you're not really taking it seriously then. You don't really believe it. You're just doing this for views. That's all it is. That's what I
Which,
took
let's
it
be
as.
clear, I'm doing my videos for views. We're all doing this for views.
Oh, yeah.
The
At
difference is
least
I'm
you're
not
honest
gonna
about
lie, or yeah, well, I'll be honest about it, and I'm not gonna lie for views. Like I'll gladly take whatever, not going viral and not lying.
Yeah,
for
that's our whole thing also. Like, for our podcast, we do question a lot of things, and Like, I don't know if you ever watched the show Ghost Hunters, like the earlier season of Ghost Hunters. Their
Yeah.
Do you remember how their whole thing was? They're going in to debunk the ghosts. They may be ghost hunters, but they're going in to see if something is actually occurring in the house that can explain this stuff. That's how our view is at conspiracy theories. Going in and trying to look at the actual, what could this be, before we go, yeah, it's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Getting into the evidence and stuff
Same.
like that.
I find all this stuff super interesting and fascinating, and I've always liked, high strangeness type of stuff. I love Bigfoot and UFOs and stuff like that, but I am very much a skeptic. Like, I'm not going to believe that shit until there's like hard proof in front of me, empirical evidence. Like, it's fun to look into this stuff, but then basing your entire reality around it is kind of where I draw the line.
And I feel the same way about it, like that's how, we look at conspiracy theories. As far as I know, my brother's more, my brother is the biggest skeptic in the booth. He is really straight up science based. Like, if we can't explain it by science, then maybe there's something else behind it. But if it can be explained by science, then I don't even want to hear what you say. I don't care what.
Not even if he's seen it before his eyes.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing with the not all the Mandela Effect stuff, because there's some that I do question myself. I'll be honest. I'm like, I don't know.
Everybody gets one.
Exactly. My whole thing, like, I always thought the Curious George had a tail, but he doesn't.
I never remembered him having a tail.
I remember him having a tail. I remember doing that, but he doesn't. So, see, I'll sit there and go.
I don't remember it either way.
I'll sit there and go like, okay, he didn't have a tail, and I'll move on. I'm not gonna sit there and go, the entire government and stuff is lying to us, corporate greed. I don't do that.
Yeah,
like,
capitalism.
Yeah. Like, everybody takes it to the extreme. Like the other one that we've had people, I don't know if, I think you've commented on one of the videos, is the one about Shazam.
Yeah.
And that movie happening, which never happened.
No, that one is hilarious to me because, like, legally they couldn't use that name. DC Comics and Warner Brothers has owned the name to a character Shazam for a long time. Like, I don't think they could have legally gotten away with it.
Nope. And like, I people don't understand either sarcasm or people messing with him, because they're always referencing either the interview he did with the New Jersey radio station, or just things like, I know I have a tape. Okay, show it to us. Nobody tags us in.
Yeah.
Everybody tags us in these things, so they take off the internet. And I went on a deep dive. Not even a deep dive. It was a skim of the internet, and I proved the one guy wrong.
You just like looked at the tip of the iceberg, right?
Literally the tip of the iceberg,
Yeah.
and that was it. And I'm like, dude, you screenshot and zoomed in, and he didn't like that, and he blocked us. But I'm like nobody can prove it though.
Right. There would be some kind of paper trail of some sort if a movie like that was made.
Exactly. And
again, I'm completely open to, if it turned out to be true and that movie existed, that would be an amazing case study. Like, I'm on the side of, like, I would love for that to actually have been, like, hidden by movie studios. What an interesting story. I love, like, lost media stories and that type of stuff, but I just don't, without any evidence of it, how can I possibly entertain that?
I agree with you. I'm at that. We were searching through the thrift store, looking for that, and like,
I was mentally preparing myself to actually be like, oh my god, it's actually real.
A cornucopia. Like, we were setting ourselves up to find a cornucopia. Like if we found it, like, okay, we're completely 100% wrong. That's our problem. That's our fault. You guys are right. Here it is. We were ready to do that. We just we had to take a photo of. We didn't put all the photos up there, so we had to take a photo of at least, I would say, 125 shirts.
I know I had like at least 26.
Who? He's on his way. Sorry. Yeah, that's Dad. We're in the middle of the interview right now. No, you're good. That's Big Joe. That's another part of our podcast. So yeah, we had at least 125 photos of the cornucopia and I'm sorry, not of the cornucopia, of the logo without the cornucopia, and people are like, oh, they're that's new T-shirts. We don't have a charger now. That's newer T-shirts. That's this. That's that. It's like, no, it's not, dude.
If I could go back real quick, you asked about the artist rendition, that recreation logo.
Mhm.
I dropped a link in the chat. It's an iStock photo of that exact cornucopia, so you could see where the dude got the cornucopia from it, and then just probably in either Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop flipped it horizontally and added it to the logo. It's the same exact thing.
Oh
So
yes.
if you ever need to show somebody that they did not, that could not have, a couple things that could not have been the way that was on the logo. There's a couple things that give it away that it's fake. First off, we know where it came from, so we know it's not real or official. Second off, like if you look at all of the hatch lines on the fruit, they all go perfectly horizontal, even though they're wrapped around a spherical object. They're still going straight across. If you look at the hatch lines on the cornucopia part, they're at all different angles. They don't match up. Then if you look at the whole cluster of fruit there, there's the same like logo or same thickness, line weight on the whole thing. Then you go to the cornucopia and it's thicker. So those are things that would be consistent if it was a real logo. You can tell by just that alone that it's a separate graphic that was added onto it. I always thought that the guy drew it and tried to make it match as best as he could, but then somebody on Reddit pointed out this stock image, and that's the exact thing. So either he made it and then decided to make money off of it by throwing it on a stock website, or he grabbed it off of here and photoshopped it together.
I think the most logical explanation for the people thinking that there's a cornucopia on it is you made a video on it, which makes a lot of sense. When you scanned the barcode and it came from an off-brand,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in Colombia.
in Colombia, or just knockoff brands off of like China, Colombia.
Yeah, how that happened is
I think that's what, like, some of that probably got into stores, and we probably had a few of those knockoff Fruit of the Loom T-shirts
no,
because they
I'll-
were very popular.
I'll explain to you exactly how that happened, because I went through the deep dive with that also, and I did. I went to like barcode search websites and stuff like that, and a couple of them I couldn't find the barcode, and I'm like, if this is a real thing, then the barcode should be here. It should bring me to that exact product. It didn't. It brought me to it was a, if I remember correctly, it's in the video. It's a secondary store in which they repurpose Fruit of the Loom products and clothing products in other countries, and they put secondhand like product things in it.
It's to kind of get away with it legally so that they could say that, like, oh, this isn't really the brand, but like even though it's very close to it, you know, it's
And
to
how
kind of cover their asses.
Yeah, and how the story goes with that is the worker, and this was proven it's legal in here. Like people actually looked it up, and there's a newspaper in Colombia. The worker that was in there thought that was the actual Fruit of the Loom logo, and he put it on there, and that's how they got those products to that. I forgot what the name of the store is in Colombia, but it's like their version of Walmart.
Yeah, and that's what I said in my video. Either this is a complete knockoff and the dude just grabbed the thing, or it could have been a translating error when it was. Obviously, somebody has to redo the packaging in a different language when it's shipped to a different country. So that designer may not have been like a Fruit of the Loom graphic designer, you know?
Yeah.
It could have been like the guy working for a translation service who grabbed the wrong logo, which that type of stuff happens all the time. I've done the company I work for currently, we did a rebrand in-house for them, and it was about 3 years ago, and we're still finding people using the old logo by mistake. It's very, very easy to see how this really popular recreation image that's very high up in the Google image searches is getting pulled and being used on products.
Oh yeah, I mean, I searched up Fruit of the Loom right now, and the regular Fruit of the Loom logo came up, but it's the trending thing right now is the Fruit of the Loom with the cornucopia, and it's right next to the regular logo. So for somebody who thinks that, well, that it doesn't look complete, the Fruit of the Loom logo. That's what I've heard too on the internet, is that the actual Fruit of the Loom logo just doesn't feel complete. And they're like, well, the cornucopia has to be that on it because that's what makes it feel complete. And that's not it. Like, you're just because you're feeling this way does not mean it's right, you know?
Right. You mentioned school, elementary school. I definitely remember seeing cornucopias around especially near Thanksgiving and holidays around at Christmas. Like, that thing was everywhere. As sure as I am that if you went to public school, you saw that and you made a hand turkey. Like, those are two things I can guarantee.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I definitely made a hand turkey.
and every time we see a cornucopia, it is accompanied by a pile of produce. So it's not hard to see how, if you see that enough, and then you're later on, 20 years later, somebody's like, hey, do you remember this in the Fruit of the Loom logo? Your brain might just like plug that in there and convince you that you do remember it.
Yeah, and like the other couple things that we've heard for the cornucopia thing is the I forgot the name of the album, but it's Flute of the Loom.
Flute of the Loom.
Yeah, and how the apparently someone, the original guy who put this into on the Reddit post, the original Reddit post, apparently he got in contact with the grandson of the designer, and the grandson turned around and said, "Yeah, he got it from the Fruit of the Loom logo," but no one actually heard from the grandfather himself because I think the man is dead.
And I did a little digging on that too, and there's other people who have reached out too, and they've posted what they've got from him. Like, one of the things was they were going to look, because he was like, yeah, my grandfather had folders for every reference that he had. So if he referenced that, he would have a folder with that in there. So they went through all the photos, and he could find stuff for like the different pieces in the artwork, but they couldn't find the actual Fruit of the Loom logo in there. So he's like, well, I must have just like looked at a shirt or something. So it's like very likely that he just the same mistake that we're making, where our brain is filling in the cornucopia when we remember it. He probably had that same issue.
Oh yeah, it's amazing because I did have I did through this one YouTube video, and I put it up on the TikTok, and it's like this: our brains literally fill in what we think has to go there, and that's a mental
it's predictive
aspect.
Text.
Yeah, like it's one of the same reasons why if there's a spelling mistake, we glance over it, because we in our head we're reading it right, but the spelling mistake is there.
We learned that in design school too. There's on a lot of typefaces, you can take off the bottom half, like the bottom 50% of the font and the words, and people can still read it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that is what our brain does. It notices patterns, and then it fills in the blank. And if it doesn't have that information because it didn't store it or whatever, it just pulls in similar stuff.
It's such an amazing, like it's such an amazing thing to think about. Our brains do that, and how our brains are tricking ourselves into this whole situation. That's my whole take on the Mandela Effect. I think that is what the Mandela Effect is overall for everything that we go through with the Mandela Effect. I think it's that. I think it's our brains are tricking ourselves into thinking that this is true, and then you get into this whole mass manipulation of now media and social media, and how people can sit there and go, well, if 100,000 people are saying that it was there, who am I to sit there and say it wasn't? And
right.
And that's why to say, oh, the cornucopia exists, that's why I never turned around and said, oh, that's going against the grain, because that is the grain now.
Right.
So it's Nicole is not going against the grain. She's going with the grain, because that's what people think anyway. So that's definitely, that's where I take, and this is my brother is here now, so hold on, let me just get your mic up.
Nice to meet you.
Your mic, hold on, he can't hear you. There you go.
Good. How are you?
He can hear you. Sorry. Yeah. So he's the original video in which took off for the cornucopia.
Right. Yeah.
And there was do you remember the account? Well, obviously we could search up, but the guy said he had a Mandela Effect cell phone.
No, I don't remember his actual username, but
I've seen that.
you've seen that guy? Yeah.
I've seen that TikTok account. That's a super cool account. Obviously, the dude has some like skills in design and After Effects and video editing. Very cool. I think the guy has like a Mandela Effect safe too.
He
I
does,
think
yeah.
that's one.
He did a.
Yep.
I went through his account, and like, it started. Well, I went back a little bit, and it started with just generic kind of things, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I have this Mandela Effect thing, and the first thing I remember him pulling out was the VHS of Shazam, and had the cover and
Yeah.
everything. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, that doesn't look right. And I remember pausing it when he flipped it over, and I did my best to zoom in to the bottom where the film credits are all listed, and it had like these. It was like
Mhm.
directed by Martin Scorsese, and it was Leonardo DiCaprio, and it had all of these names. I'm sitting there like that's no, not at all. And then to come to find out that there's someone online who sells that, and it says like it's a goof.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, there it is.
There's one with like Jonathan Taylor Thomas on it. Like, yo, JTT was in his prime in the mid '90s. You're telling me you could bury a movie with him in it?
Yeah.
No.
No, absolutely not.
He would be in a movie like that, like a what do they call those? Mock something. But the idea is it's like you have
Mock
Pacific
film?
Rim, so then they made Atlantic Rim.
Oh,
a
yeah.
mockbuster.
Yeah, mockbuster. Yes.
Mockbuster, because that's what it sounds like people are describing, a mockbuster, something to trick your grandparents into buying the wrong VHS.
Exactly. No, I remember, and here's the weird part. Like, I remember going, like, I stitched that video, and I stitched a few others that he was doing, because I'm like, he's putting it out there. I'm like, it's good content for us. I'm just gonna keep rolling with it. And he started commenting on my stuff, going, he never said once that like, hey man, I'm not lying. It was always like, hey, knock it off. Like, why do you have to put me on blast like this? I'm like, so you're not defending yourself on this? You're just gonna be like, yeah. Like, I would expect someone to be like, I'm not lying. This is the truth. I like, it's not my fault you don't believe. Never mentioned any of that stuff. It was always like, I'm calling him out, and instead of like saying, I'm not lying, he's like, just leave me alone. Like, I enjoy my views. I enjoy the fun I'm having. Stop ruining that for me. And I'm like, no, you're lying. No.
He'd probably get more views and like reactions too if he like was honest about it and was like, I'm doing like, I don't know. I think it's the way it's filmed and everything is super cool and legit looking. Like, if that was kind of the angle he was coming from, I think I'd follow him just to see like how he's making it.
Yeah, like, I like the old Nokia cell phone, and he's waving it over the thing. I'm like, it's so well done that I can understand why someone is just like blindly like, oh no, it's got to be true. And I'm like, but that's not how reality works. Like, let's not forget that too. You can't point a cell phone at something and it registers an image different than what the camera's taking into its lens. Like, it doesn't happen unless there is some sort of filter. I'm like, that's not how reality works, buddy. So
yeah, I was there in the old days. I could barely you couldn't watch porn on a phone. Like, you definitely couldn't get it to like show other realities.
That's
I don't even think those phones had fucking cameras.
No, some of them did. Definitely those old brick Nokias didn't.
No, I agree with all that. And
having a camera was a luxury.
Oh, back then, absolutely. Yeah. Now it's a necessity, but back then it was a nicety.
You had the BlackBerry flexing on you with like 2 megapixels, and everybody was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
See, and the thing with that now is where that guy left off, because I haven't seen him do videos in a while. Maybe
no, I haven't.
Where that guy left off, we were talking about Nicole now has picked up from that, and like I said, we got in contact to her, and she was like, I don't want to do an interview. I just want to have my fun. And I told her, I'm like, listen, it's a smart thing you're doing this, because technicality, they can still sue her. Technicalities. But if they do, then it's going to go all the internet like, well, why? And she's not selling that much anyway.
I mean, the only thing I can honestly see them is like...
She had like 200 sold.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to sell... If she was selling like...
Thousands,
then they could make like, listen, it's not exactly parody, because the base of the image is still our logo. You're adding one element to
Right.
it. So on that grounds, I can think that they're probably going to sue, and it would still be truthful and honest from their perspective. Like, that's not our logo, but it's not different enough for us to let it go.
Right. If
So
they sued her for that, I don't think they would sue. It's bad PR for them, and like you said, she's not making enough money that
Absolutely,
it's
yeah.
actually gonna. What I think they might sue for is because it could, if enough of those get out there, it could. I'm trying to think of the legal term for it, but it like diminishes the brand, dilutes the brand.
Right.
Because like I've already had people post in my comments and be like, I have a video on my TikTok page of somebody wearing a Fruit of the Loom sweater with the cornucopia, proving it's real, and it's a video of somebody answering the door who bought that sweatshirt off of the TikTok store from Nicole and is wearing it in the thing, and somebody is already thinking that that's the Fruit of the Loom logo on something. So you could
Exactly.
easily prove right there that it's diluting the brand. Here's the other thing. I guarantee you, like if she put these on stickers, fine. Who would care, you know? If she put them on like a toothbrush, who gives a shit? She's putting them on clothing. Fruit of the Loom is an apparel brand.
There you
They are
go.
a company who makes clothing. She's putting it on the same. It'd be like if I did a mock version of the Apple logo and added a stem and a worm to it. Like I could probably put that on shirts and sell it, but if I put that on
With a
computers
parrot
and
like
tried to sell it,
iCarly.
I would most likely get sued by Apple, and that wouldn't prove that they had a worm or a stem in their logo. It just proves that it could cause brand confusion.
Yep.
And that's kind of what she's doing, because those sweatshirts are not made by Fruit of the Loom. So a lot of the times on the TikTok store, there are cheaper knockoff brands in other countries making these, and then they're getting printed somewhere else and then drop shipped to whoever buys its house. So the quality of it probably isn't even up to Fruit of the Loom standards. So they're putting something that looks like their logo on another company's piece of clothing and selling it. You could easily prove that that's causing like brand dilution.
What would
That's a
be
good
interesting?
point.
Yeah, what would be interesting to me also is if the original artist of the cornucopia logo, whoever designed that,
Yes.
would come out
Yeah.
and say, "Why? She's using my logo on those shirts."
So I thought about this too, but then when I was looking at her shirt more closely, she's changed some other stuff. Like the grapes at the front are flowers in her version of it.
Hmm.
The fruit are completely. I believe that they're a different drawing of fruit that she probably got off of Canva or something like that, and photoshopped it with that same cornucopia that she more than likely got off the stock photo website.
Yeah, he
So
wasn't
again,
here.
like
Sorry, Tony wasn't here for this. I'm going to update him. He sent us the actual stock photos in which the cornucopia was used.
There they are. Look at that.
Yep, that's the cornucopia
nice.
which you see right there.
Yeah.
And
That's perfect.
it's the same exact look. It's crazy. And for us, and I'm going to put that in
yeah,
the
a lot
video
of times
too.
when a lot of the times that I'm like trying to debunk this stuff, the first thing I look at is like, how could they have photoshopped it? You know, if I can find the pre-photoshopped shirt, like there's two going around that are fake, and I was able to find like one was a stock photo of a Fruit of the Loom shirt with a tag that they took, stretched out, and then threw that artist rendition logo over. There was another one that a different logo was put on top, and it was like covering some of the text on the tag, but I was able to find that original shirt, like the image
Right,
that they
right.
downloaded off of Google and then just photoshopped on top of. But yeah, same. If you can find like that, we know where the cornucopia came from, and we know it's just added to the Fruit of the Loom logo, so it's easy to debunk that one now.
It's so amazing
No, I know. I
to
mean,
sit here and think about this stuff.
it's,
Like,
you know what's really interesting, I find? Like, you have something like this where it's Mandela Effect. People believe it. They can prove it. They can't prove it. Whatever they want to say. And then you get people who flat out, like, they refuse to just do their homework, like a shred of homework.
Mm-hmm.
And then you sit there and go, but did you read this? Did you read what he said there? Like the Sinbad thing, like, I saw your comment. He goes, do you think he's going to go on a radio station and openly admit to killing? Like, and I know that people are going to be like, well, I didn't watch the last minute of that. I'm like, well, there you go. And then like, well, maybe maybe he's joking about that. I'm like, well, how can you say that? How can you say like he's joking about that part, but in the same,
Not the end.
yeah, but like it with the same exact temper to his voice, but he's not
Yeah.
and like the underlying factor is he's a comedian. Like it's his entire job to mess with people. And
he says in the beginning that he doesn't have any genie experience. Like that is a joke, my guy.
like his next thing is like, they had to lube me up to get in that lamp. That was just a horrible day. And I'm like, right there, like, duh.
So that gets taken out of context. I've seen that just like clipped out to where you don't see the jokey parts and you just see him admitting it. That gets shared. The was it College Humor or Funnier College Humor?
College Humor
did the April Fool's video, and that gets edited. I call that the Shazam effect, where it's taking like stuff that was made to be like kind of meta commentary on it, and then repurposing it as evidence for what they're trying to prove.
It's insane.
There's so many people that again, they love to, and this is what we've become on TikTok now. People trying to disprove what we talk about.
Yeah.
And they add us at the College Humor videos or the video of him talking in the radio station, or Nicole, or
I get a lot of tags from interviews with Sophia Stewart, and it's not Mandela Effect, but she just has like everyone believing that she was responsible for those movies and the Terminator and Matrix, and I'm like, did you guys read the official court documents with the judge? Like they found that she, like, no, like she's lying, like no, that's not a thing. Like, and it's like that's a real world thing. It's not like people remember one thing. It's like they're just believing her lies. This is like something, like there's no way to prove this stuff, and people still are like, oh no, I'm all about it. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, no.
It's such, like I said, it's such a fascinating conspiracy thing, because that's what I considered it as. Mandela Effect's a conspiracy theory overall.
It's absolutely a gateway conspiracy. Somebody posted that in my comments, and I've seen it, because I went from a normal algorithm, like my For You page was pretty normal and set to stuff I like, and I started making these videos, and all of a sudden it started changing. I'm seeing more Mandela Effect stuff, then I start seeing flat Earth stuff.
Oh, God.
I'm seeing giant scary puppets, aliens in Miami. Like the type of shit that I'm seeing on there now is wild. Like it went from the most like innocent conspiracy theory of all time to just like straight down. I'm in January 6th was like fake, all this crazy shit.
Dude, that's how he found us.
Yeah, I'm sure. like there's two guys who come to mind where I'm just like, at this point I'm not sure if they're truthful or if they are doing this for the clickbaits and whatever. So, I mean, it's not Flat Earth Dave. Flat Earth Dave is a nut job. And, like, I know he believes in this stuff. But there's a guy on TikTok he has these stunning blue eyes. His name's Caleb. And he talks about Flat Earth. And I'm like, there's nothing behind those eyes. And I'm like, I don't know if you believe this shit or not. And the other guy is I don't know where he's from, but he has this really thick accent. Is this black guy. He's like, you gonna tell me, brother, that the rock out there is not a petrified ancient tree? Come on, man. I'm like, no, that's exactly what that is. It's not a tree, it's a rock. Like it's a giant rock. That's how it formed. It's not a tree. Like, stop it. Stop being this way. I don't know. I don't know if they believe that stuff or not, or but like
Flat Earth is a whole different
Flat Earth
subject.
Dave, he's all about that shit. He's making money. So I'm like, I know he's silly. I know he's stupid.
People I didn't even like some of these phrases people say it too, like the sun and the moon are local. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've had so many.
The fuck does that even mean?
Look,
local?
we've gone through 3 major phases in our TikTok. We've gone through battling the Flat Earth people, battling the Mandela Effect people, and I forgot the third one in which we were sitting there.
Well, I mean, it was mostly space is fake. So it's more than just Flat Earth. It was like, no, space is just, it's not real. We're under a firmament. You know, I've made the video several times. I'm like, yes, it did say the word dome in encyclopedia, but dome is a type of mountain that it's found in Antarctica. It's a special kind of mountain when the snow settles in a certain way. It like, yes, you're not wrong. It did say dome, but it's not dome as in firmament. Like, stop it. Like, understand that words
Right.
can mean other things. Like, look at the definition. There's a scientific, and then there's
Yeah.
like, just knock it off. And I can make that video 10 times, and there's going to be 20 videos where tagged him, like, look, it's in the encyclopedia, Dome. I'm like, no, stop it.
Well, it's like the trademark for the cornucopia, that every video is like, oh no, she found the trademark, blah blah blah, and it's like, no, dude, we've talked about that at length. It's not what you think it is.
And now I have to go out because I have to get my food.
No, it's all right. Yeah, it's such an amazing, like so many things that we go through with our TikTok as far as dealing with, again, doing conspiracy theories as we do. We're gonna, I already always knew that we were gonna have people who fought back against what we say.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I've had some battles with some people over TikTok in which another one is the Bible, but again, the Bible is something I don't really like to go back and forth.
Yeah, it's hard with the Bible. I'm fine debating with people who take it like quite like literally.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. Like there's things in there that you can't take literally, but I tend to lean away from those people because it's religion. It's something a little bit deeper, and I don't want to shit on anyone's faith. But at the same time, when someone's like, no, the Earth is only 6,000 years old because it says it is, I'm like, pause. Like, I will fight you on that one. Like, everything to do with your faith, you can keep, though.
I think it. You sit there and go back and forth with people when faith or at least the Bible crosses over with science.
So yeah,
that's where we could sit there and go, you know, anything else when it comes to the Bible.
I forget who says it, but you can't reason something out of something they weren't reasoned into.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You know, so, but I'm so happy to have this interview with you, especially with the more stuff that we could find out about this Cornucopia logo. It puts it into perspective, and it only, you know, I know your view is a little bit like, I hope it comes out. I hope that it is, but you fortified in my eyes with this logo tonight that someone did it out of something else, you know?
Yeah, it was
someone.
Photoshopped.
It was photoshopped.
Oh, yeah.
Like it definitely wasn't Fruit of the Loom, and I'm sorry to the people out there who believe it. Like, if you do, like,
can I go on record by saying, like, when I first learned of this, I was like, no, it hasn't. A part of me still wants to believe it. Like, I really do want to believe that. No, there was definitely. I could close my eyes and see it. The Shazam thing, to a degree, I can like yeah, that makes sense. It's something Sinbad would have made in the 90s, and I could see that.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
like the Bernstein Bears does mess with me because I had those books. Like, I had so many, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna chalk it up to it's a fancy font. It's a long, multi-syllable Jewish last name, and I'm like, yeah, I just didn't read it. I just took it, and I see people all the time, like even on like official merchandise, like, oh, they misspelled it, or I'm like, oh. Or maybe knockoffs more than likely, but I'm like, yeah, it's.
Well,
I can
what
see
you can
that.
tell from those is it's never in the logo.
Right.
Spelled with a Stein. It's always a secondary font, and it's not the handwritten logo. You know,
100%.
Because that's done that's a hand font. The font they're putting on like the VHS stuff, or like there's a stuffed animal that has it on the tag. That's like that's a font that they're just using, and somebody didn't do their homework and made the same mistake that everybody else makes that thinks it's Berenstain. But I remember that from being a kid, because book fair, I was always getting those books at the book fair. I remember like there was a cartoon out at the time.
Yep.
They had little flocked figures, and everybody called them Berenstein Bears, and it drove me nuts because I had just learned like AI makes an A sound like in rain, and I was like, this should be Berenstain, but like even the teachers would call it Berenstein, and I'm like, what?
From my grandmother, my grandma always called it Bernstein, and like a couple years ago, like I'm a theater teacher, an acting teacher, so like there are times that I'll use some of those books to teach a class with, and we'll turn them into an acting activity, and I will have to in class be like, this is the Berenstain Bears, like ... go to the hot beach. You know what I mean? It's so easy for me to just be like, I remember Bernstein because that's how my grandmother taught me.
Right.
But I'm like, she was wrong. Like, and I could just swallow that and be like, my grandma was wrong. Like I'm like, why is that such a hard pill for people to swallow? Like, I was wrong. Okay. It doesn't affect my
grandma
wallet.
called it. Yeah, my grandma put the S at the end of everything. Like she went to Walmart's or Kmart, you know? Like I live in a town and we have like some popular local businesses. Everman is one of them. Ozone Pizza is another one. These constantly get called Evermans, Ozones. Like people just change the name.
Yeah.
Like Berenstain is an odd name. I have an odd last name. I used to wonder why my parents always spelled it when they introduced themselves. Daw, it's not very common. And I realized because people will just call you whatever. Like they'll
Sure.
fill that in with what I've been called dog, doll, D-O-L-L.
Oh yeah.
Like people who have known me for years will call me that. And I'm like, have you never seen my name spelled? But I think it's the same thing. Like Stein is a very common ending to a name. We probably heard that. Leonard Bernstein. There are plenty of famous Bernsteins and, you know, Steins out there. Steens at the end of the name. So it's very easy for people to make
Dude,
that.
no.
Yeah. Epstein,
Dude, no.
Weinstein.
Exactly.
It's a top predator suffix.
That's great.
That was
I mean, look, we go through the same
somebody
thing too.
with that name is gonna kill me for saying.
Yeah, our last name is Caiola. It is Caiola.
All vowels practically.
All vowels. It's an Italian last name, and people go Crayola. No, not Crayola. No, we did not. Like I got that throughout my grammar school all the time. It's like you created you created these. I'm like, no, not the crayons. I did not create the crayons.
Did you see an R in my last name?
Man,
Like,
no, it's Cai. And then we got Cajola, stuff.
See, I can forgive someone's like Mr. Chiola, like they're pronouncing with a hard C. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. You don't know it. Like, C can make multiple sounds, fine. But then you get people who like will add in consonants. I'm like, that doesn't go there. It's like, where did you see that? Where did you come up with that? And that's not like it's not uncommon because in language, I know of like there is something like called the intrusive R, where you'll say something and you'll throw a little R sound in there, or like I definitely the older day, like finish your sandwich. I'm like, there's a G in sandwich, like no sandwich, not sandwich. Like it could be a cultural thing or it could be a regional thing when it comes to an accent. Like that I can forgive, but like. There are many people like, no. It was always Bernstein.
Yeah.
Like,
no. It's such a, like I said, the conspiracy theory of the Mandela Effect to me is has grown, especially now that the Cornucopia seems to be like the front of TikTok right now.
Right.
It's grown to be like in the top 10 conspiracy theories of all time now.
Sure, it's always like you have the Monopoly guy.
Not of all time.
No, but like
you don't think of all time?
The Mandela effects.
Because there's so much.
It's probably one of the top Mandela effects.
Yeah. Like I get the Monopoly man without the monocle, or Curious George with no tail.
Yeah,
like, okay, sure. But like people lose their shit. We were like, oh no, there was never a basket in the Through the Loom logo. Yes, there was. I know that.
Yeah, like I said, we still get like those 3 comments today.
Yeah, you're too young to remember.
I'm definitely like he's 35 years old. I'm 20. We're both 28. Like, how are we gonna sit there and tell me that there was like we're too old, too young to remember this? No.
Well, people tell me, they're like, so just say you don't remember it. Just say that. And I'm like, I do remember it. That's what sent me down this rabbit hole. But I can admit that like the electric meat that lives inside my head is like gonna make some mistakes.
Exactly.
You just kind of have to accept that.
One of the things I say
but here's what I can't. Yeah, here's what's like interesting to me right now with the progression of the Cornucopia, especially Mandela Effect, is like the baseline of the Mandela Effect is a mass amount of people misremembering the same thing the same way, right? It was started by a kind of conspiracy theorist, I think ufologist, who misremembered Nelson Mandela dying in prison and finding out that a lot of other people remember that too. So like that's the definition of it. But then you have like people who have hypotheses for why that's happening.
Oh god.
And for a long time that was like, we've switched timelines. It's CERN.
CERN
messing with their Hadron Collider.
Yeah. We've had so much to talk about CERN.
And now it's evolved to corporate gaslighting or like a CIA experiment. So now you're getting all these different people who have almost like a religion. It's spreading off into its own little like sects.
Yeah.
Well,
What camp are you in? Are we in the alternate timeline camp? No. Same timeline, but they turned on the collider and the mini black
Yeah.
hole. I'm like, no. Why? And why that thing? Of all the things in the world that you could change, it doesn't do anything for the better. It doesn't do anything for the worse. It doesn't affect anyone's money or sex life or it's like. There is no positive in just be like, oh, there goes the cornucopia. Like, stop it.
Because, bro, if they can convince you the cornucopia wasn't there, they can convince you of anything. That's what people say.
See, my whole thing, to me, like, if that's the case, why? If you're gonna convince me of anything, why do it of something so insignificant?
That's exactly right.
Like, if you're gonna convince me of anything, convince me that 9/11 happened. Convince me that JFK was shot properly. Those things,
you mean like 9/11 didn't happen, or
no, like it was like
there was no bombs in the bomb.
Yeah, like it was like convince me of something that like
the JFK
didn't go to Iraq.
Yeah. The JFK one pissed me off because I'm like, you can just put on the Zapruder film and look how many people are like. There was only 4 people. I know. I remember watching. I'm like, just go to YouTube and hit play. There's 6. It's the FBI agents, the 2 wives, and then JFK and the senator, the governor, whoever it was.
And see that's
extended.
That's the one that pisses me off because you know me. I've done my exclusive research on the JFK assassination.
I know.
And I've watched those videos back and forth, and they're sitting there. Especially it's the older men, like the around our father's age, is like, I know for a fact I was there. I watched that happen. And I'm like, dude, you were like 4. Shut up. Like, no, you didn't watch it.
And you didn't see the Zapruder film until it became widely available much later on. So quiet with that.
Exactly.
Like, no, there was 6. You just don't remember seeing 6 because you're too focused on watching JFK.
Get his head blown off.
Yeah, exactly. So stop it.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Can I talk about that artist rendition logo again real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Talked a lot about that, but I wanted to bring up something else that I find kind of interesting, but I can't figure out a way to put it in a video. Like, most people who I talk to who claim that the cornucopia was part of the logo claim that it ended around the 2000s, like the end of the 90s, early 2000s.
Right.
What I always hear from people.
Yeah, that was the same thing that happened around the same time it went tagless on the shirts, I think.
Yeah, we talked about it.
A bit before that.
Okay.
What I've heard also.
Yeah, so kind of same time frame.
Sorry, what I've heard also. Now this is a new thing. It comes in the same coincidence. In apparently the early 2000s, they had a leak or something happened with the corporation that was making the shirts, and that's when they changed logo. It was some big thing that happened with Fruit of Loom and one of their distribution centers. And that's when they changed the logo. And I'm like, I don't know.
I haven't heard that one. I've heard Nicole did that video talking about the spill in the 70s, which actually wasn't Fruit of the Loom. It was a different chemical company that Fruit of the Loom bought years later, and when they bought the company, they assumed the responsibility to pay for the cleanup. So I don't know I haven't heard anything about one in the 2000s. All I know is, like, if that logo had a cornucopia in the 90s, it would have had brown leaves. So people who look at this artist rendition logo and they go, this is exactly what I remember, are full of shit. Because the logo the style was a bit different in the 90s, and it definitely had brown leaves, not green ones. Which is why I think people make this mistake to begin with. I think our brain is categorizing it when we look at it, and it's going pile of fruit, non-fruit, brown thing. And then, because the brown leaves. Then later, when we're trying to recreate the image in our brain, we have to fill that non-fruit brown thing with something, and someone goes cornucopia, and you go, oh, I've definitely seen that imagery before. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I will say the ones that mess me up is when they go, listen, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. I'm from any other part of the world other than America, so why do I remember it? And I go, I don't have an answer for you. Like, I could talk about what I remember, but I'm like, I gotta be honest, maybe it's something like you just said, but I like, those are the ones I'm like, you got me stumped. I'll be honest, but I'm like, it's not in the logo, but I can't tell you why either. So have fun figuring that one out.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I mean, I think it might be a little bit more common than people give it credit for. Like you could look up other logos that have cornucopias in it, and there was probably something regional in your area. Like I was looking up some stuff recently and found, I think, a couple, like a food bank that used it in my town when I was a kid, and I was like, oh, that's another place I would have saw that imagery.
There you
So
go.
it's used in places. So I think there's just people don't think about it that much, you know. I don't remember how I figured out, what a basket was the first time I saw it.
And this,
So our brain like tries to recreate it when we.
And this has been going
remember
on
things.
since, like, honestly, I think I first heard this like maybe 12 or 10 years ago about
Well,
the Mandela effect with the
Mandela Effect. Yeah.
Mandela effect with the cornucopia.
No, I'll be honest. From
Cornucopia is a bit newer. I
Yeah.
think the earliest thing was because the original person who made the post
Yeah.
was
on the
2018.
Mandela Effect subreddit, it was
That was
2018,
that was
and he
2018?
recently was on the subreddit talking.
Interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
So.
New Mandela Effect.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think that'll do it for our episode. Thank you, Michael, again. Please, can you just let everybody know where you find you for any of your social medias or anything like that, for like maybe your YouTube page?
Yeah, you could find me at Daw Does Stuff on TikTok. You could find my sketch group, Kitty Get a Job, on Instagram or YouTube, and you can find my website with all my design work up at jackdawdesignco.com.
All right, we'll put that up in the video credits also. So I just want to say thank you, everybody. Thank you, Michael, for joining us for the interview in which we interviewed Michael about his opinion about the cornucopia and the Mandela Effect, which went beautifully. And thank you for joining us for our Simpsons episode, Mike. I wish and hope that you join us for future episodes whenever you want to. You're welcome to come on because you're fantastic to talk to, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you for having me.